GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, Google Data Retention Policy. Geez, did you get the email from Google? Maybe you did, and that's why you're at this video, so I'll talk about it in just a minute. Hi, I'm Ross Barefoot with the Search Engine Academy, and what's going around right now is a lot of Google email fear because Google sent out this admittedly scary email where they say, "Dear Google Analytics Administrator," and then they say, "We've shared all this stuff about how we're going to meet the GDPR. And so now we've introduced granular data retention controls." And if you've seen the email, maybe you're wondering, what in the world is this, and do I need to take any action? So I'm going to give you the real quick overview. First of all, when you look at this email, it doesn't tell you exactly how you even set these data retention controls in Google Analytics. You have to go and kind of hunt around for it. So I'm going to show you how to do that, but I'm going to also tell you what is driving this. And what's driving this is that the European Union is privacy nuts. And so they really have these stringent regulations, and if you violate users' privacy, you could be facing this huge fine of up to 4% of global revenue. Now for, maybe people like you and me, that doesn't matter, but for a lot of companies, that's like just enormous. It can be up to like 20 million euros. So it's a big deal if you have anybody browsing your website who lives in Europe, all right? So even a small company needs to be thinking about this a little bit. But the basic thing, and here's the tie-in with Google Analytics. Google Analytics tracks user information, but normally they are not tracking personally identifiable user information. Now, what do I mean by that? Personally identifiable information would be an email address, a phone number, physical address, things like that. As a matter of fact, it's against the policy of Google Analytics to be storing any of that information. So in the first place, when it comes to Google Analytics, in most cases, you're not going to have much of a problem because Google Analytics does not track personally identifiable information. At the same time, sometimes personally identifiable information can creep into Google Analytics. There's a great article for searching for this in case there might be a problem with your data over at Lunametrics, and I'll put a link to that down in the description. But beyond that, the thing is, normally Google will be tracking information tied to things like an IP, and an IP is now considered by the European Union personally identifiable information as well. So again, this needs to be on our radar screen. And that's why Google is doing it. But at the same time, really, for most companies, this is not going to be a big issue. So I don't think you need to be worried about Google Analytics and what it's tracking and whether it's going to get you into trouble with the European Union, heaven forbid. However, you do need to know how to get to it and how to mess with it. So I'm going to go over here to Google Analytics, and you can see I've gone into a demo account. I'm just going to show you where this shows up in your Google Analytics account. So click on Admin at the lower left, and this stuff is in the property settings. All right, so it's in the property settings, this middle column. We're going to click on Tracking Info, and notice they've added a new choice here called Data Retention. We're going to click on Data Retention, and notice the default for most people is going to be set to 26 months. Now what this means is if somebody navigates to your website from an ad, then they leave and they come back 12 months later and they click on your website again, maybe they didn't come from an ad, Google is still going to be tracking, oh, well, this person actually originally was sourced from an ad. So that may factor into some of the reports you have, but it's not going to be really too big of a deal. From my perspective, right at this point in time, I don't really know any more than you do the exact subtleties and implications of setting this, and I can show you can set it to 14 months or 38 months, 50 months, do not automatically expire. I don't know what all the implications of those settings are. I'm not going to be sweating it. I'm probably going to leave it at Google's default, then we'll see if more clarity comes in. But at the same time, I do need to tell you that this whole thing with regard to privacy and personally trackable information is on everybody's radar screen. So start paying attention to GDPR because it's going to have an impact on the way, for example, all your vendors, if you run an email list, if you run a subscriber list, things like that, it's going to have some impact. This video, however, only has to do with Google Analytics, so I'm going to stop at this point and tell you that unless you have a significant reason to be messing around with the setting, my recommendation would be that you leave the setting at Google's default. Don't worry about it, but be paying attention. Again, I'm Ross Barefoot with the Search Engine Academy, where our mission is to help companies, particularly small companies, be able to deal with all of this digital marketing nonsense and understand it and get back to business. Thanks for watching.